All right, for our final item, last but not least, we have an update related to pupil transportation. No doubt this is a topic on everyone's mind in our community. We certainly understand that this is issues around transportation are not unique to Henrico. We are facing a national bus driver shortage, and you don't have to look far on either the local news or the national news to see that this is something affecting every community. And I am really proud of the tremendous efforts of Mr. Pritchard and the Mr. Ellis and the entire transportation team for how they are working tirelessly to find solutions to address this. So while I know that we've not been able to solve all the problems, I don't want anyone to be under the impression that there's not an incredible team behind the scenes doing everything humanly possible to think about a way forward in service of our students and our community. And I think for those of you that follow some things on social media, you'll even see that the pigeon has been allowed to drive the bus. If you follow children's literature, you might know there's a book, Don't Let Pigeon Drive the Bus. We've seen the National Guard in some states coming in to assist, but it's fair to say no stone has been left unturned. And so, Mr. Pritchard, would you please kick us off on your update and let us know where we stand in regards to some transportation challenges and certainly where we're headed with progress?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Cashwell. I'm here today to bring you a transportation update. And like Dr. Cashwell, before I begin, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the entire transportation team for all of their hard work and efforts for safely transporting our students to and from school each day. This is another operations department that has stepped up to meet the needs of our school community for the past 18 months. They have contributed to every need and request since the pandemic began in 2020. And just some highlights from this team. We're talking about meal deliveries, providing transportation for those who were unable to pick up electronic devices for virtual learning. They brought back our special needs students, CTE students, and most of our vulnerable students for face-to-face instruction last fall, and a return to school and extracurricular activities in March, and increased summer school routing that included high school students for the very first time. This team in operations has been willing and eager to help serve our students and our schools from the beginning, and we could not and cannot do the work without their much appreciated support. Lastly, I would like to thank our school staff, students, and their families for all of their patience and understanding as we work through the impacts of the national bus driver shortage. Sorry about that. The first day of school brought our traditional transportation delays, but by the end of the week, the team was able to get ready or greatly improve the pickup and drop-off times in many areas. Even with these improvements, we do have routes with scheduled pickup times after the school day has already begun at some of our elementary, middle, and high schools due to our bus driver shortage. During the first week of school, the transportation team recorded over 500 double runs. The team has worked to reduce these to 236 double runs and 15 triple runs. Most of these additional runs are in the 3-chop and Tuckahoe zones due to higher ridership numbers and higher driver vacancies. Currently, we have 100 vacant bus driver positions. However, we do have some bright light news on this front. We have 7 drivers finishing class, and they will start once they're able to get tested and get a ride-along time. 2 have completed the requirements and will be added as drivers. We also have added 5 bus assistants and 1 car van driver to begin as well. 14 drivers started class last Wednesday, and depending on CDL need and required endorsements, this could be a 3 to 6 week process before we see those drivers. So far, we have 3 student drivers to begin our newly added September 29th class. And since last Tuesday, we have interviewed 16 potential candidates from last week's job fair and the normal application process. We also have 10 student drivers that are scheduled for our October 13th class. We are planning on holding another Drive the Bus job fair on October 16th, and I'm just making it's a shameless plug, at Hermitage High School, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This by far has been our most successful recruiting event, and we are looking forward to seeing what this could bring us in potential drivers. As we bring on additional staff, it will decrease double runs and improve our pickup and drop-off times. Also notice on the slide, the phone number's up there. Please call. Anybody looking for a job? I mean, we're trying to hit all angles here. While we work to improve the driver shortage problem, we are reviewing and working on solutions to help improve pickup and drop-off times by reviewing our routes and ridership numbers. By doing so, we can begin consolidating buses that are not being fully utilized and add a bus back into the fold to help with routes and double runs. We're looking at consistent ridership numbers that will also allow us to eliminate 0 bus pickup and drop-off stops. These are stops that we have in our routes that yield no students, but we are making stops and losing time. We're trying to find non-CDL drivers and add minivans into our exceptional ed routes so we can use the larger buses in our daily routing to eliminate double runs. We're also looking if adjusting the bell schedule times would help. The transportation team is in the process of looking at our routes and trying to determine what the adjustment would look like and if it could help. This past July, we began acquiring a bus tracking app that would allow parents the ability to track their child's bus in real time. Like most items during COVID, we experienced delays in getting the GPS hardware required to utilize the app. We have begun receiving the hardware and we are still installing them as we can on our buses. Even if the app were fully available, this would make our current struggles even more challenging due to the thousands of changes that we are still working through with our schools. While we work through not having an app, we will continue with schools to improve communication about bus pickup and drop-off times. Transportation will continue to use School Messenger in the mornings to help families get students to the bus stop to avoid long waits. And we will rely on schools to use School Messenger to notify parents in the afternoon when there are unique and unexpected circumstances that cause longer than usual in releasing buses. We do understand that this communication can help reduce some of the stresses on families wondering when their student or students will arrive at the bus stop. All of us at Transportation want to again say thank you to our students and our families and our schools for their patience as we work through by far our most challenging time. Your understanding and support is greatly appreciated. And at this time, I will attempt to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pritchett.
Yep.
Ms. Atkins?
So thank you, Mr. Pritchard and your transportation team.
They've been awesome.
They are beyond awesome. They are exhausted, tired, but they love our kids.
Yes, they do.
And they're doing double runs and triple runs, and so many are so grateful for them doing everything that they can think of to get our kids to and from home. Can you share with me how many bus drivers have been hired so far? I know you gave it to us in pieces, but do you have just a solid number on how many we've hired so far?
I mean, when I say hired, that's just somebody that we would actually put on the road, because I mean, we put people through the process that pass the HR screening and so forth, that they're able to pass a physical. We try to do that before we get into the process, but I would say as far as actually hiring per se, that put them on the road, I would have to get you that number. I mean, something that's
Some quick math that might
process.
help based on,
Yes.
so we recruit individuals in who are interested and they start the process. They can't actually be hired until they pass all those tests, as Mr. Pritchett mentioned, the health screening as well as the get the required CDL. But it's about 50 in the hopper, if you will. And so
Yes.
he mentioned, like, piecemeal as students graduate, it might be 2 or 3 here or there. So they've been steadily coming on board as soon as we're able to get them through the training process and through the screening process.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm interested in learning more as far as feedback from our bus drivers on management of the seating charts and additional paperwork. Can you share with me what type of feedback you're hearing from our bus drivers?
Well, I know that in some cases, because we do have bus drivers that still make their normal routes, they're making their normal amount of runs, and keeping a seating chart has been relatively easy. The difficulty, and where I think that we take great pride in, is the teamwork that we've had and sitting down and developing solutions to help out with those bus seating charts. with schools and administrators and our DLT team to take pictures and to at least provide some kind of seating chart that way. I mean, we're sending bus drivers back out to run routes that don't even know the routes, they don't know the kids per se. I mean, they're just doubling back to help out when they can.
And I think what I'll add, you know, one thing that Mr. Pritchard has provided the leadership team on a regular basis with feedback, and the seating charts were challenged. We heard directly from drivers that, you know, because drivers were often, as he said, not driving kids they typically drive, or the ridership was varying greatly between morning and afternoon or even day to day. They worked very quickly to work with our school administrators to come up with a process that someone could board the bus as it comes in and take a photograph to know exactly who was sitting where and not add extra time or stress to our drivers. So that's a great point, and something they're really been creative in responding to those challenges as they come up.
Thank you both for sharing that, because I think we also want to make sure that our bus drivers' voices are being heard, and they may potentially also have ideas and solutions, and certainly want to make sure that you know, have an opportunity to learn what they are, if not directly from the bus drivers, but of course from yourself and the leadership team. So thank you for that. I also want to share just some ideas that I've received from families. The first one, and some of these are very specific to Varina, Sandston, and Highland Springs, and others are not. Around traffic patterns, I want to encourage us to take a look at the intersection of Williamsburg Road where Montrose Elementary School sits. I see it as a hot zone. Not specifically due to bus driver shortages, but because of the shortages and some of the delays, it's just making it a bit worse. So I'm wondering if we could take a look at a study or partner with our colleagues to see if there are opportunities so that the traffic doesn't back up down Williamsburg Road. Particularly, of course, it's going to be at those peak times when school begins and school ends. But once it's starting to back up on a major road like Williamsburg Road, I like us to be a bit proactive to see what we can do there. I know it's limited.
Well, and I will tell you that I know that I've reached out and we've had conversations with the county counterparts to do some traffic studies. I gave a list of elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools that were also our frequent high flyers before COVID, but continue to grow as well, that we've sent to them and have studies. I know that Courtney and her team are also heading out and doing studies at schools that we get requests from to take a look and see what we can do to adjust traffic patterns there as well. I mean, one of the issues obviously is ridership. I mean, some people have opted to take their kids to school, and a lot of it has to do with COVID and the Delta variant, but that has also put a strain on transportation as well, because trying to get buses in and out. So we're trying to coordinate that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do appreciate the help.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to the Varina District. We are doing a fabulous job of working together and doing a very respectful job of thanking our bus drivers and doing what we can to sort of alleviate some of that. But to your point, there has to be a balance. So if we have more folks carpooling, more folks taking their kids to school to alleviate, the bus driver stress, if you will, then what also happens is you have that backup, and particularly on schools that sit on those major roads that are hazards before COVID. Let me just keep that real. There's just more of a hazard now. And so the two that are at top of mind is definitely Montrose, and the other one is Fairfield Middle School. And so I know that we have police officers and crossing guards to assist. My question is it possible to have that be on a more permanent basis? Because those areas were congested and hazards before. COVID made it worse. But what is the process so that we can have, and I know that's a conversation between the county as well, so let me be clear, I am aware of that, but I'm hopeful in sharing this that those conversations would become more of a priority as we continue to move forward. The other suggestion is around creating opportunities and safe paths to walk to school. We do not have sidewalks in Varina, Sandston, and Highland Springs, and I think this warrants the conversation and working with our county partners on at least getting sidewalks or safe pathways so that families that live near the school have the option to walk to school. And then thirdly, I want to talk a little bit about communication specifically to Mayford Elementary School, and that's going to be at the intersection of Buffin Road and New Market Road. I know several studies have been done, and based off of the results of those studies is that it does not warrant a traffic signal. However, I do think it warrants a bigger sign. Right now, there's a very small sign, I think it's about the size of this notepad, that lets folks know that there's a school on the street. I'd like for us to take the opportunity to put a bigger sign there to let folks know that are on that major road of New Market, that a school does sit, on that street once you turn the corner. So if you could take a look at that. And then lastly, I'm very excited about a mobile-ready app for our families. I think that's going to be tremendous as we move forward into the future. I know that Chesterfield implemented something similar not too long ago. Is what we're implementing similar to that or different?
It will be similar, yes. A parent would be able to identify their child's bus in real time where it was located.
Okay, and I probably missed it, but did you give an estimate on when we think that would be ready?
Well, we would have to, once we get all the hardware installed and start moving forward, the recommendation would be to move forward and slow roll that out because it can be very confusing. And if you don't have the people that are properly putting in the information for bus changes, it can make a bad situation even worse for a parent's concern.
I understand.
They're going to understand why the bus isn't moving and it's still sitting in a depot somewhere. So we have kinks that we would have to work out, and we would go through, and we would like to slow roll it out, put it in a zone first that is not having some of the transportation problems that we're seeing some of the other zones.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, that concludes my questions at the moment, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Ms. Atkins. Ms. Ogburn.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard, for the update. And, but as you said, the Tuckahoe District and the Three Top District have more issues right now than some of the others. And I know Ms. Shea and I both get a few emails, and you look forward to the day when we stop sending them to you. But I do appreciate all of the quick response. It is amazing the number of times that a parent has contacted me, and I have, sent that to you, and it's almost immediate. And Mr. Ellis too, for responding late at night. Y'all are burning the midnight oil to get this done, and we know that and appreciate it. But I also wanted just to give out a shout out to Ms. Berry, because I know that she has been helping. I have a couple of spots that I've been working with y'all on at River's Edge and at Twin Hickory with just making sure that the kids have safe access to school. And so I know the parents know that we're working on it, but I just wanted to thank you both for all the efforts there. But the thing is that we are competing again with everybody for people with the CDL. You can't ride down the road without seeing a truck on the back of it said looking for hiring. Everywhere you go, you see CDL drivers being hired. And so I know y'all are working as furiously as you can to hire as many people. And so I'm really glad to hear that we have 50 people in the hopper. That's awesome. I know that'll make a big difference. But thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Ms. Ogburn. Mrs. Shea.
Thank you, Reverend Cooper. One of my schools on their marquee has, right now, all it says is bus drivers needed. And I'm like, that's an understatement. And before I get started, I just want to shout out Mr. Hurdle, who runs Zone 4. I've never met the man in person, but communicated quite frequently over email and with my constituents. And he is so transparent with our parents about, where our struggles are, and, doesn't try to sugarcoat it, just tells them this is what it is and this is what we're trying to do. And I think that has gone a long way with our constituents, just to understand kind of the nature of the beast right now. So shout out to him for doing such a tremendous job. So I guess my initial question was about app status, but that seems to have been covered. I know in the meantime, some of our schools are doing some real creative things to try to communicate with their schools. I know Gayton is sending out using Facebook, and Tuckahoe Middle has a really neat Google Doc bus board that they keep updated. So our schools all have some good workable solutions in the meantime. And then, would you mind emailing me all the stats you rattled off? I tried to write them down as fast as I could, but I know I missed them because we have 32 open runs right now in Zone 4, I believe, which is a struggle, especially when all of our drivers are already doing 5 and 6 runs. It is a struggle. So. Oh, and then I had one thought. When Ms. Atkins mentioned the seating charts, and I know we're taking pictures of the buses. I don't know if our buses already have the numbers on the back wall or not, but if they don't, I think that would really help administration when they take the picture to know exactly what bus number it goes with.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shea. Ms. Kinsella?
Yes, I echo all of my colleagues' feedback and sentiments regarding transportation, and I just commend the whole department, and I appreciate you, Mr. Pritchard, for managing this department and for doing your best, given all the emails and phone calls we receive that we then share with you.
All the praise should go to those fine people across the street at Central Office. They do an amazing job in those zones. They're just amazing.
Well, I thank everyone. So here's the thing. So I've heard some feedback from some drivers, and they're illusioned or disillusioned, shall I say, because they feel they're doing these seating charts, and some admins aren't even taking them to use them, nor are they taking the pictures that other folks are talking about. So I just want to share that concern because that takes irritation for our bus drivers to a whole new level. The fact that they're doing something that really doesn't seem to matter, but yet the seating charts really do matter because they're part of our mitigation strategy. So if I could just share that with you. And then the impact to instruction and just the extra, but most importantly, I know at the last meeting, I highlighted safety. I know Ms. Atkins hit on it today. And I know 3 Chopped and Tuckahoe may be short buses, but I can tell you, we're short some buses, and then some students in the Brooklyn district aren't necessarily riding the buses, and I've been extremely concerned about the safety. And I've asked for some safety studies. Do you know how soon we may get some results from those safety studies that are going to be looking at traffic patterns and perhaps adding safety patrol or crossing guards? And again, to Ms. Atkins' comment, I realize the government side needs to be involved because that's Henrico Police and Chief English, but do we have any kind of timing on that? Or any response to specific parking lot patterns that I know we've looked at, like Glen Allen High School comes to mind, and any high school, actually all of our high schools where we've got student drivers, but specifically those on 45 and 50 mile an hour roads, such as Highland Springs, Tucker, Glen Allen High School.
Yes, so absolutely. And to your question, I think related to safety impacts and traffic studies and all of that. So there, are multiple factors here. Certainly what happens on school property and the bus loop, as you said, and how students are released, particularly where there are student drivers, and then also pickup lines and any combination of those things. Of course, each school's designed uniquely as to how many traffic patterns there are coming in and out, bus loops that are separated from parking lots and so on. And I'll say our administrators have reworked and rethought those processes and are still actively doing that. So they're certainly dealing with what's in their sphere of control. As Mr. Pritchard mentioned, some of the things outside of the school property when it comes to light cycles and traffic patterns and crosswalks are things that we have leveraged the support of our county government counterparts, and they've been tremendous in stepping right up and saying, hey, how can we begin to help looking at some of these scenarios where we're seeing the most backups, the most challenges, and then, of course, our safety team as well. So we are acting quickly on each and every scenario either we've known about or board members have made us aware about through constituents, or constituents have made us aware of, looking at creative ways, if not through crossing guards, assigning additional staff to make sure that we're monitoring things like students crossing and directing traffic flow. So we hope to report back on progress soon, that those are all works in progress.
Okay, thank you. I think that's just important to know, is that we're continually updating things safety-wise at each of our schools and with our traffic patterns, that it hopefully, if it's currently a concern, it won't remain that way for our students and families. And then, Mr. Pritchard, you cracked me up in your presentation because you said student drivers, which is really, I just have to correct it, that is, it's our bus driver candidates, right?
Yes,
Instead of our,
yes.
Correct.
Instead of our
They are
student drivers.
yes, my
I caught
fault.
that too, and I thought, well, you know, we don't have that CTE program yet where students become bus drivers, but you know what? Anything's possible.
I've already been in conversation with
But
Mr.
yes,
Beebe about that.
bus candidates who are students or working towards their CDL.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd, giggle and also note it for the record that you did mean our driver candidates. Anyway,
I
you
didn't
also.
have a journey clip, so I had to go that route. So, but I was admiring his final slide with the road with the question mark. That would have been appropriate too on mine. So.
Anyway, thank you.
Yes.
So you noted adjusting or looking at adjusting bell schedules and potential start times of schools. I support this as in some of, across my district, some of my schools with the late start time conflicts with perhaps a middle school or other traffic patterns. Do you know when we may learn more about this, either Mr. Pritchard or Dr. Cashwell?
Yeah, I think they've done a tremendous job studying this, and we've also had the benefit of learning from a number of school divisions who started a few weeks earlier than us, and we've seen a number of cases where some time shifts have been made, and it hasn't increased the ability overall to fix situations, but looking very specifically at particularly our elementary tiers and some of the tiers that could be adjusted. A school may be in one tier that's in proximity to a middle school, as you said, that's starting. There may be some adjustments there. They're also looking at whole scale opportunities to shift times by 10 or 15 minutes here or there across the board to see if that may make an impact. They track daily the number of runs, when they're made, how they're made, what time they're made, and can actually run the numbers to see if they had adjusted the times at certain schools, how would that have impacted? Would it have resulted in more on-time runs?
And then lastly, recently met with my PTA presidents across my district. Is anyone that currently rides the bus at risk of losing their seats? I know you're talking about updating, bus stops that don't have any students currently at the bus stop, but differing perhaps correspondence has been shared out with families that makes them nervous about, they may not be riding the bus currently, as to the contact tracing concerns that they may have, but are families going to lose their seats on the buses if they don't start riding the bus?
So I would say the answer is no, but I would say, as Mr. Pritchard's alluded to, what we're trying to do is fine tune runs and stops. So it may be a stop that had been in place in your neighborhood is no longer. You might have a stop that's a little farther away. If there has traditionally been 0 riders from a stop for the entirety of 4 and 5 weeks, it might be that stop is eliminated. Certainly if a student were to begin riding again and there was some sort of a hardship, they would work with our transportation team supervisors to bring awareness to that. A difference may be related to things like specialty center transportation, where you're opting in and there's not necessarily a neighborhood. This is a special circumstance. Some of our special education transportation where you'd be opting in for a particular circumstance. We'd ask that families who are going to need that opt into that right away. And if there's a change, we would of course do our best to accommodate particularly specialty center transportation, but those are more challenging than the neighborhood routes.
Okay, I would just appreciate it. I'm glad we said that, and because I've heard from families who are perhaps on a second run and their children would perhaps miss up to an hour of instruction of their instructional day. So that is why they're not currently riding bus transportation provided by us, but they plan to, if and when, or should I say when, let me not say if, but when our
right.
transportation issues are resolved.
Absolutely. And I think we're very aware of the routes where there are route pickup times that are later than the start date. And so that's certainly something they're thinking about when they're looking at ridership on those routes.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Again, I'm not going to reiterate, but just say again what my colleagues said as far as you and your staff. Quick question. So we have 50 in the hopper, as Dr. Castro has alluded to. How many do you think that we need to achieve on-time pickups for AM and PM service bus drivers that, in light of what's in the hopper, what would you think that number would be?
I mean, we were making runs, and we were still behind during normal circumstances with being short up to 50 drivers, but we were making it work. So if we could get a workforce of about 60 to 65 people, we could almost get back to where we were with some delays, but not like what we're seeing now. I mean, we're talking about the normal delays.
So even with the 50 that's pending onboarding process,
We're still going to have some
around
issues,
60.
but it will be, I mean, every driver we fold in makes it that much better.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I just definitely
Yes.
appreciate that. In that kind of same vein, so for our transportation services for students with special needs and students at private placements, are we experiencing any delays or shortages with transportation services or drivers for that specific segmentation of the population?
Let me see here. I kind of anticipated this. So we have some. It's kind of spread out from the east end to the west end, but it's not as wide range as it is on normal routes. We have some, yes.
Okay, so I guess
Yes.
we have shortages of drivers as well
Yes,
as
because I mean, they're in tiers too. So if they're working to go pick up kids and get them to a school at a certain time, and then we are getting them to another tiered school and they're behind, then they're going to fall behind. But it is very small in comparison to the rest of the bus fleets. Yes.
Yeah, the routes are accommodated. They
Yes.
just may be late arrivals,
Yes.
as we've indicated
Yes.
before, but there isn't, no one's without transportation.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kessler. Thank you, Dr. Ms. Pritchett. Last question. This is an HR question. I don't know if you can answer it. So, Ms. Bowden, just listen. If you feel necessary to come up, please do. So, again, we're aware of our employing creative and aggressive recruitment efforts in order to hire qualified bus drivers. And so I noticed that on the Pupil Transportation page, as a part of the recruitment efforts, it states candidates for full-time and substitute bus drivers must be at least 21 years old, have a valid Virginia driver's license, be able to obtain a CDL Class B instructional permit, or hold a CDL Class B license with endorsements in P, transporting passengers, S, school bus, and air brakes. Pass a physical and drug test, and here's the caveat, and have no felony convictions. My question or my concern is related to the felony status. She's getting up.
I'm going to move over to the side. of this.
Ms. Bowden, as you come to the podium, are we limiting our recruitment to only individuals who have no felony convictions, or have we expanded the pool of potential applicants to those with allowable felony convictions in accordance with the VDOE under the law effective June 1st, 2020? A school board may employ an individual convicted of a felony or offense of moral turpitude not defined as a barrier crime that does not involve the sexual molestation, physical or sexual abuse, or rape of a child, provided that for felony convictions, the individual's civil rights have been restored by the governor.
So yes, sir, thank you for bringing that to my attention, because that sounds like something we need to correct on the website. You're absolutely correct. The law has changed, and now school divisions are able to employ individuals who have felonies on their record. Now, if the felony deals with driving, obviously we're going to look at that a little more closely. But in answer to your question, we are able to consider individuals who have felonies on their records.
So we definitely have to change to have no felony.
Yes, sir, definitely. And thank you again for bringing that to my attention.
Well, I'm just hopeful. Again, I just want to thank you, as well as my colleagues and Dr. Cashwell, and I'm just trying to research and find any loophole I can find to help us to increase the individuals that are eligible for employment. I think too often that statement, no barrier crimes is what is an impediment is just those. So thank you. I'm really appreciative of that. So.
Thank you as well.
All right, well, that's all I have. Listen, again, Mr. Pritchard can't say enough. You know, we're in this together. All of us getting the emails and the calls. It was funny, just real quick. My child's first day of school had some bus issues, and I was copying an email from one of the parents and says, and you wouldn't believe it, the chairman of the school board's son had an issue too. Yep, all of us are being impacted. Doesn't matter if we're a school board, superintendent, you know, we're in this together. We feel the same pain, but we're looking forward to the same resolution. So thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. And absolutely, we are in this together. I have a bus rider who has a pickup time later than her first period starts. So I understand and have been so pleased, though. I know that her drivers have indicated they've gotten lots of kudos, and they sure appreciate it when families and students are flexible and understanding of what is not an ideal situation that we're clearly working diligently to correct. So thank you, Mr. Pritchard. All right, that concludes items from the superintendent. Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, staff, board members.